Welcome, everybody. Thank you for listening to our first interview. And so for the purposes of these interviews is to talk about not only the company, but also to talk about the individual that we are interviewing and how they came to the company, how they got into the insurance business and the like. And I hope by listening that you can take away a few nuggets that you can apply to your own careers and hopefully your career with Security National Life. Of course, I'm Jason Richardson, the Vice President of the Home Service Companies. And today I've got with me Gregory Halcomb, or we'll just refer to him affectionately as Greg. How about that, Greg? Is that all right?
That's right.
Better. So, of course, I've known Greg for several years now. We won't go as far as how long that is because that might date he and I. But known him for a few years now. Greg's been in the home service business for 21 years. And how many of them with Security National? Now 5, right?
5, yeah.
Okay, great. So Greg, why don't you start us off? Tell the listeners and or watchers how you got into the insurance business and how you landed up here at Security National.
Well, I started my educations and my backgrounds in sports administration from Southern Miss. I worked with the football there to the top, and got my master's degree from Jacksonville State in Alabama. I worked with the football team there as well. My goal back then was to be athletic director, work in athletics. I moved from there after I graduated to Thibodaux, Louisiana, worked at Nicholls State for a couple of years, and then moved to Central Arkansas, worked at in Conway at University of Central Arkansas, and just was kind of burning out on athletics altogether, and decided, my wife and I, both from Alabama, we decided to move back to Alabama. And at that point, I had too much education and not enough experience. And so I got into the insurance until something else came along. 21 years later, I'm still going strong. So I do love it. I started with another company, a non-home service, or a company that had transitioned from home service, and didn't take long before I realized it's so difficult to try to build something without having people in front of you. And I got into the home service business after 6 months in the insurance business, and worked with another company for 16 plus years, and just enjoyed helping people. That's kind of the best part about what we do is, we're in people's homes every week, every month, and you build that relationship with them, and they know that you're there to help them, and that's a rewarding thing to me, is to be able to help people. And got into management, and the same thing with management. Go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to say, so when you started with the other company, of course, you were green, and like myself, I'm sure, we thought we knew everything. But what was it about? Was it the contract? Was it the products that the company was or wasn't offering that said, this just might not be for me. I might need to go find another company somewhere else. Obviously, you like the insurance business, or to your own admission, there might not have been nothing better out there. But you thought that there could be something better out there, so you liked it well enough. But was it the contract, or was it the personnel? What was it about that first company you started with that you said, this isn't for me? Maybe the second company is.
So my father-in-law had dealt with the district manager with that company, and he had kind of put me together with him. And I'll never forget, I went on before they hired me, I went on a ride along with the sales manager. Mm-hmm. And he took me to the debit that he was looking to put me on. And I'd been in a situation where we knocked doors and people slammed doors in your face, and it was just hard to sell to cold calls and just to build anything. So he took me to some of these houses, and I never forget this little lady. He said, Greg's looking at coming on board with us. And she got up, gave me a hug, and said, I hope you become my agent. And I thought, what is this? You're supposed to be, nobody's nice to the insurance guy.
Right.
But it just made you feel at home and at ease. And you were able to, like I said, you're able to just build a relationship with these people because you become part of their family. I really enjoyed that part. Um,
So
and
you
it
like
was more consistent, I guess, as far as the pay at that point, but because I had people to service. But it was just the feeling of a family, I guess.
Okay. So with the first company, of course, you weren't making any physical collections. And as you know, when we talk to people out there that are not familiar with the home service business, that's understandably so, since there's so few of us actually marketing in that realm anymore. But you actually had to make collections
Right.
on the second one. So a lot of people view collections as extra work, right? You've got
Right.
gas that you got to pay for. You got time. You got Miss Jones. I always pick on Miss Jones for some reason, but it could be Miss Smith. But we got Miss Jones out there that says, "Hey, I need you to come back next week or come back Friday," and so you make more than one call, or you miss them on the first round. You got to go back. So, do you see collections as much of a detriment, or do you see that as a feather in your cap, so to speak, as a way to differentiate yourself between you and the competition?
Well, and I think the two of us have talked about that. Between ordinary and home service. Ordinary's ordinary. You're normal, right? That's by definition. Home service, we are special, and I think of it like this. So, in that between time between when I left college athletics and started in the insurance business, I had a long 3-month career of selling cars. Never do that again. But one thing I thought about in that is if I have a car lot and I've got 5 or 10 cars on it, it's hard to sell those. Somebody's got to drive by and want to look at one of those 5 or 10 cars. If I've got a car lot with 300 cars on it, I have more opportunities to sell. So I think of insurance, home service insurance, that same way. If I've got people that I've got to go to and collect each month, I've got an audience. And in sales, if we don't have an audience, we've got nothing. We've got to be able to have somebody to sell to.
Sure.
So if I'm at your house and collecting your premiums, before you know it, we're talking about your family, we're talking about your neighbors, we're talking about people you go to church with. And if I'm smart and I'm asking the right questions and getting you to respond to me, I can pick up prospects simply by that. And so, that to me, I think of it as more of an opportunity than I do, having to go and collect these people.
Sure. Not only you mentioned this earlier about being family, and there's most of our families we like to visit, but we all got those we don't necessarily like to go visit or call our families. But I digress. The people that are successful that I found, and as you mentioned, we talked about this before, but the people that I found that have been successful in this business don't view collections as extra work. They're not trying to get out of collections just so that they can sit at home and watch Maury or Oprah or anything else. They use collections as that lead source.
True.
And in this business, we have to have a lead, right? And a lot of agents pay a lot of money to companies to get these little paper things they call leads, and the lead a lot of times is no better than what the person is that's working them.
And I think of leads the same way I thought of when we were in college. I didn't join a fraternity because I didn't want to pay for my friends. It's the same thing with lead sources. If I have to go buy them, they're not real to me. But if Miss Jones that you mentioned earlier, if she ends up giving me her sister or her brother or a connection that way, I'm building through friendships, not through my pocket.
Right. And then that's also, I would think, the easier way to get in the door, easier way to sell, and more likely to keep those people on the books, because those are people that are part of your family now, right? Because you've taken care of those particular people. And like myself, I've been blessed that the almost 23 years now that I've been doing this, I've been working the same areas. And so I've seen kids and grandkids now that they know me because they've always known me. They knew me when I was much younger and had more hair. But and it does become like family, and that is the fun part about it. That we're able to help a lot of people with their needs when they need it the most, and we're able to make a living for us and our families. So let's go back to with the fact that you left the first company, went to a second company, and of course I'm privy to this. We won't call the company's name, but you worked for a company that for several years was essentially a family-owned company.
Right.
And it got bought out by a big corporation that had a lot of money, and they decided to buy it out. They didn't really know how to handle it, and we won't go into all the deals that they did or didn't do, but obviously they have a contract, and this is a big company that we're talking about, folks, that has a lot of agents out there and services a lot of customers. But what is it about them versus Security National that would lead you to say, hey, I've been with this company, I'm sure everybody's heard the saying, it's the devil you know is better than the one you don't know. Because even at Security National, I would say, and I'm not an unbiased third party, but I would say that we're the best. We're not all perfect. So
Right.
what is it about the other company, us versus the other company, that would choose you to say, I've been here this long, I've kind of dealt with them through all this, I'm still going to take the leap and come out?
Well, as far as myself, someone had recruited me for a long time, and I kept not completely listening to them. I guess I was drinking the Kool-Aid, so to say. And it was more of those things where I'm comfortable with this, and I'm just maybe not happy, but I'm comfortable with it, and I kept just staying through it, right? And eventually, it just got to the point where if I'm going to try this, I need to try it now. And I guess it's the part that really has gotten me here is, in sales, we put pressure on ourselves, right? We don't need somebody else to put pressure on you.
Sure.
If you're going to be successful in this, you're going to, because, I've got to eat, and I've got to feed my family. I got to take care of my family. I'm going to put that pressure on myself. I don't need somebody breathing down my neck. And that's kind of the way it had gotten at the other company. Here, I realized you can do the way you want to do it and enjoy it. And, the pressure, is it still there? Of course it's still there. It's going to always be there, but I can control my pressure here. And I think our sales force, our management, our agents, they all can do the same. That's, I remember a long time ago, I had a regional manager mentioned that we want to be the a carrot and not the whip. And, that wasn't truly the case there. It was always, we were still trying to whip everybody, but I feel like that is the case here, because we are dealing with independent agents. They can have whatever appointments that they want to have, but it's we want to be the best, and we want to have what they want, and be there for them. And so it's kind of, we're helping, not fighting against the pressures that they're already on. So
yeah, it's like I've said many of times, the difference between us and some of these other carriers that are captive is that we try to, instead of hold them captive, which inherently sounds evil, that we try to captivate them by the things that we're able to offer. And then people in a free world can make free decisions as to whether or not they want to join us. Right. And so that's what we tried to do here at Security National, is to provide that opportunity. You said something early on in that about being comfortable. And isn't comfort that one thing that really keeps us back from realizing and maximizing our potential in life? Is that comfort level. We get so comfortable, like the baby with the dirty diaper. I know it's dirty, but it's mine and it's warm. And so I don't want nobody to change me. And so we just hold back and say, maybe it'll get better. And it never does. And we never challenge ourselves, because, and if you're watching this video, you know that Greg and I are not visiting the gym every day, but they tell me that they tell me that weightlifters or bodybuilders or whether you're a runner or whatever you are, you exercise those muscles, they hurt.
Right.
And that's how you know you're growing. That's not how you know
Right.
you're getting better. And we tend to try to shrink away from that and try to stay in that comfort zone of where we are, and we never realize or maximize our potential. I believe that there's a lot of potential out there, and potentially it's with Security National, and definitely want to encourage the viewers or listeners of this, that if you're not familiar with Security National's home service division, to check us out at snlhomeservice.com, or check out our YouTube or Facebook pages, and certainly keep abreast of all the things that we've got going on, because there's always a contest going on, always a fantastic trip. That's one of the things that I say about Security National, as opposed to some of the other companies that Greg and I have been with, is that they're not sending you next door to the state next door that you could go there by yourself. They're sending you to places that you're not going to normally go unless somebody else is paying for it, and in which case Security National is. So all you have to do is meet certain qualifications, and you can join the hundreds of others that do visit with us, whether it's to Thailand, or whether it's to Monaco, or whether it's to Europe multiple times. All these places I've gone. The company's gone to Fiji, to the Great Wall of China, so on and so forth. As a matter of fact, at the time of this taping, it's still up in the air, so to speak, that whether or not we're going to be visiting Israel or Austria.
Right.
Not to be confused with Australia. Some of y'all will get that movie reference, others will not. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, two great destinations, whichever way we go. I've heard agents say, well, I don't know about Israel, or, I don't know anything about Austria. I was like, what does it matter? You're going to get a free vacation.
Monaco was my first trip to go on, and I was the same way. I told my wife that I didn't want to cross the pond, and we get the opportunity, and here I go. But it was amazing, and just a week in the French Riviera, that was like I was bought in at that point. All right, I don't want to miss another one.
Well, and folks, if you ever get to meet Greg in person, you'll have to ask him about some of his experiences in Monaco. We won't share those here.
keep that on there.
But definitely so. I think my wife and our favorite trip thus far has been to Thailand, even though that's been the longest flight. Just the experience of being there was fantastic, and meeting the people of Thailand was wonderful as well. So definitely a lot of opportunities here. So Greg, as we kind of wrap this thing up, want to kind of bring it home, and why don't you let's give a sales tip out there for the folks. Times are tough, whether you want to say we're in a recession or whether we're not. Everything's more expensive, especially if you've ever been to the grocery store lately. Things are more expensive than they've ever been, and so budgets get tighter. But so people think in their minds that because budgets are tighter, that less people are buying insurance. But statistically, there are more people without insurance today. Statistically, the people that are insured are underinsured. And also statistically, there are less insurance agents out there doing what Greg and I and others like us do every single day. So there's less competition out there, but times are tough. So why don't you give us a sales tip of something that we might not have thought of to do, that an agent listening or a potential agent listening says, oh, that makes perfect sense.
Well, most everything we have has been used before. That
Sure.
may be something that you haven't thought about in a while, but one of my favorite things is when you're sitting there talking to them, and maybe they don't have the coverage, or they're not, they don't have enough to take care of what they need. My favorite thing, I guess, it's not, but one of my things that I like to say is, you don't want your family to have to cry twice. they're going to cry once because they've lost you, but the second time when they go to the funeral home and realize times are tough, right? But now we've got this bill that, what are we going to do with it? How are we going to pay for this?
Right.
You know, GoFundMe is not insurance. Not having a fish fry at the funeral home, things like that people actually do because they're not prepared. And it doesn't take a lot to become prepared, to know that you've got, I may not have everything taken care of, but my family will be able to have a nice funeral for me, and everything will be able to get back on track, some form.
Sure. Well, and the funny thing, you mentioned GoFundMe, that people hate the idea of passing around the hat. Used to be the deal that was used. People hate that, but they don't mind the GoFundMe. Well, that's
Right.
because it's online, so it's
Right. I don't have to look at you. Yeah.
right.
Well, now I remember too when we first started, Jason, you'd go into a grocery store, a convenience store, a gas station, and the little buckets that would be there, and somebody had a loss or whatever, wanting people to put their change in. And, that was always so sad to see that, it's the same way I look at the GoFundMe. So they have to have these because the family was never prepared. And are they never prepared because there's not enough of us out there asking for it? I remember, kind of off the subject for a second, but I remember a sales manager that I worked with. He used to say, if you took the areas that we work, and I know you work a lot in Yazoo City. If you took Yazoo City and you figured up, out of all the insurance companies that are out there, how much premium is being sold every week, with all the companies that are there, the State Farms, all the insurance companies that are there.
Right.
There's a minimum, probably $1,000 a week that's sold in your area. Why are we getting the smallest portion of that? Because they're not going door to door. They're not out there rubbing elbows with the people when we are, or we should be. And, so why don't we get more of it? And it may be because we don't ask, I
Sure.
think is probably the main thing. Going back to the collections that we make, a lot of times you get lost in just making the collections and going home. But you're here to help people, and if you don't ask, you're not going to be able to help them, and you're not going to be able to get anything from it. So,
Well, and yeah, because I used to have agents when I worked for a captive company that I told them I would fire them if they went into the house with a route list only and no kit to write any business.
right.
Because you run life insurance is one of those insurances that's sold, it's not bought.
Right.
Typically, nobody wants to talk about death, and so that it's got to be sold. So that's why it's got to be salespeople. 20 plus years ago, I was told that this industry wouldn't last. One, because people were going to stop collecting. Two, because the internet was Al Gore had just recently invented the internet, and the internet was going to put us out of business. And then thirdly, because companies that did things through payroll deduction, people were going to start doing that because it's way more convenient to do it that way. But what they found out was recessions hit and people lose jobs. The internet can't talk somebody into buying a bought product like life insurance as well as what they thought it could. And yet there's still some companies that are still doing things the old-fashioned way, as it was started in the 1890s by Prudential Life. We still visit and sit kneecap to kneecap, eyeball to eyeball with customers in our local communities in now 18 states for Security National. So we're still doing things that way because it hasn't worked. And I believe that if it ain't broke,
Don't fix it.
Don't fix it.
Right.
So, my suggestion, my sales tip, if you will, for those people that are already appointed with Security National Life's Home Service Division, we have this wonderful thing called a rate calculator. And so, in one of the videos that's on our YouTube channel, you can go check it out, where I go through the rate calculator. That's very intuitive. But one of the options that you have on the rate calculator is to work with premium. Right. So if you're talking to Miss Smith, we'll pick on Miss Smith for a second. If we're talking to Miss Smith and we say, Miss Smith, if I was able to give you a plan to fit within your budget, how much could you comfortably afford each month? And she says $20. Then I'm going to put in $20, and then it will tell me based on her health how much she can buy. It might be an odd amount. It might not be exactly what Miss Smith wants, but it's something that fits in Miss Smith's budget. And the best policy is the one that's enforced when she really needs it.
That's right.
Because I'm playing the long game. I'm not trying to sell a couple of big policies just to get a couple of big commission checks, pay my bills, and go get into bagging groceries at a grocery store. I've been there and done that before. So I'm playing the long game because, as I mentioned before, now most of the insurance that I bought, and granted, I don't have the time that I used to just get out and prospect, but now I'm not having to knock doors. People by and large are calling me because I wrote at the time of this recording, I wrote $70 the other day, 3 applications. And so I was talking with her because she just texted me out of the blue and I didn't even know who she was.
Right.
Till I got to the house and realized that I wrote her mom across the street. And then she said, actually, I met you at another customer's house and gave your number to my mom. She bought it. And then I said, well, when I got my stuff straight, I would get with you myself. So, and I've known that person that she was at their house. I've known them for 13 plus years. But that just goes to show you that if you're in the house and you treat the people right, good things are going to happen. See the people, treat them right, and good things are going to happen. So that's kind of my sales tip. Utilize the rate calculator that Security National Life's Home Service Division provides you as an agent to easily quote. Be sure to keep your rate book handy because in the rural parts of Mississippi where we're at, a lot of times our service doesn't work all that well. But when
you said that about the customer that contacted you. A lot of times we're planting seeds daily, whether it's in recruiting. When you recruited me, and sure. For those that didn't figure that out, it was Jason that had recruited me. But when you recruited me, it took a while, and eventually I came on board. Same thing with our sales. You can push somebody into buying something, but when you push too hard, they're probably not going to keep it. And that's when our business starts at the point of sale because you're going back to collect them next month. And if I had to twist their arm to get them to buy it, I'm gonna have to do that every month when I go to try to collect it. But if you're doing the right way and they know that you're there trying to help them and see that their tomorrows are taken care of or their families' tomorrows are taken care of, then they're more apt to call you after they see that you're taking care of mama, and you're doing what you said you would do to help their mom. They're going to say, well, this guy, he's going to take care of me too.
Well, yeah, the funny thing about that, as salespeople, we're always looking for that next sale, right? You got some bill that came up, you need to go out there and outdo your stupidity sometimes. I speak for myself. We feel like we can outsell our stupidity. It's not normally the case. So don't get me wrong, or Greg wrong. We definitely want to sell more. But we want to do it the right way because we'd rather for it to stay on the books because we're going to make more money that way, right? And the customer's better off for keeping the policies. Yeah, it's all. I was years ago when I was just an agent here at Security National Life, we were having our Founders Month. And for those of you who are not familiar with Security National Life, Founders Month is the biggest production month of the year for us. And it's a bonus in of itself. So again, you can check out some of that stuff at snlhomeservice.com. But so I was the agent and I was facing off against one particular person that I knew was not that great of an agent. And when I say great of an agent, they could write plenty of business, but they really didn't hold on to it. Mm-hmm. So lo and behold, they beat me out. It wasn't by much either. It was like a couple $100 annualized premium. They beat me out for the number one agent for Founders Month. I was so hacked. I wanted to throw tables over and all that other kind of good stuff. But today, that person's no longer appointed with Security National. I'm sitting in the chair that I sit in. And some of those customers that I wrote way back then, actually, oh my Lord, it's 10 years ago almost. Almost 10 years ago. I'm still collecting on today.
Right.
So I lost the battle, but I won the war. So, think about that when you're out there and people are telling you no and not right now and all that kind of stuff. It gets so disheartening, right? Think about that and say, I'm going to make one more stop. I'm going to make one more stop. I'm getting that one more no out of the way, because if I'm okay if I lose this battle, but I don't want to lose the war. So you just have to continue to do what you know to do, and eventually it will pay off. You'll plant enough seeds, to your analogy, and eventually it'll start sprouting up. So that's definitely what you want to do. But hey, Greg, I do appreciate, I don't know how much time we're coming on, but we like to keep these things relatively short to help with those short attention spans. But we hope that you've enjoyed what you've heard and or watched today. If you're watching this or listening to this on YouTube, be sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell notification, as well as the like button. It makes you feel warm and fuzzy inside, and if it doesn't you, it does us. So be sure to do that. Hit the bell notification so you don't miss things like this in the future on our YouTube channel. We do our training videos as well as podcasts like this, and we'll be releasing those regularly. So hitting that bell notification will keep you from missing out on any good content. And if you're already an agent with us, the best way to keep up with stuff is to visit your agent portal, because we always drop, whether it's the newsletter or any of the other announcements, we'll drop those there. And if you're not an agent with us, what are you waiting for? You hear about all this good stuff. We're not just, pulling your leg here. We do mean it, and we do provide the opportunity for you to become a successful agent, but ultimately it is up to you. But we want to help you in any way that we can. So feel free to reach out to us, and you can go to snlhomeservice.com and click on career or opportunities, and that will get you hooked up with your local manager. It might be Greg or any number of the other managers that we have in the various states that we're in, and let them talk to you. All you can do is say yes or no, so it won't hurt you. They don't bite, mostly, and we can go from there. So again, thank you for watching and or listening. Thank you, Greg, for submitting to be the first person on one of these. And until next time, happy selling.